Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, MudGear-Battle Alliance Pro and Strength and Speed owner, Evan Paris. I got a guest with me on the line. Before we get to him, though, a quick word from this episode's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Hylete. If you haven't tried Hylete, you need to pick up some of their stuff. I literally own, I think, everything head to toe Hylete in some form or fashion. You know, they have shoes, their sneakers, which I just picked up around Christmas time. They have socks. Their pants are like the softest things in the world. I own several of those. T-shirt, their hoodies are soft, and they're great for co-branding too. So you can actually like screen print a logo on there, and has minimal branding on there. So that's what we actually use for. That's what we use for the CTG Pro Team. That's what we use for the MudGear-Battle Alliance Pro Team in 2022, and just a lot of great stuff on their product. I have several of their bags, which I think they might be discontinuing. So if you don't own one of those bags and want to get one, I would head over to their website ASAP. All right, let's get to today's guest. So speaking of MudGear-Battle Alliance, I have the newest teammate for there, Thomas Plush. Thomas, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Cool. Now, I haven't heard you on I don't think I've heard you on any podcast before, so we're gonna get to know you a little bit better. But you know, you've been racing throughout the Midwest for a couple years now, getting on the podiums of some local brands. Been on the podium of CTG a couple times in 2019 and 2020. And then usually just off the podium in MudGear-Battle Alliance, in addition to winning some local OCRs throughout the Midwest. But the thing you're probably best known for, and I think people have been standing next to you on start lines before and not known you by name, but they'll know you now, is you sometimes run barefoot.
Yeah. One of my, actually my first race, CTG, and I want to say 2017, it started off, you ran straight in the river and you go through the woods, you come out, you go back into some water, you come out, and I thought I was going to tear a knee up, just sliding around all over the place. I got to cliffhanger and I said, the hell with it. I took my shoes off, took my socks off, and growing up, I had the nickname The Hobbit, because whether we were playing in the street, playing football, I was barefoot. I even kicked field goals for our high school team barefoot. And so I went with it, and I felt better, lighter, felt like I had more grip on some of the obstacles that require your hands and feet. Even though some of them, you do kind of have a disadvantage with the bare feet. But
gotcha. The first time I remember seeing you, I think was, I want to say it might have been Wichita 18. And I remember getting on the start line, and, you know, there's a guy like a couple spots down, it's you, and you're barefoot. And I'm like, what is going on here? It's like, this is not going to go well. And the race started, and you took off, and I was like, this guy can run. And for the first mile, you were ahead of me. And then I eventually caught up at some point during the race. But I was like, oh, this guy's like a legit runner. This is surprising. I was not expecting this. So
yeah, it's a gamble, because it could take one thing on the course to ruin almost your whole race. The Battle of the Lions, the strength one, I was actually feeling great, doing well. I was going to make my push at the end, and I stepped on a rock just awkwardly right in the center of your foot. And for the rest of the race, I mean, it felt like it was broken.
Oh.
I just had to run on my toes, which I was able to keep a fair speed, but I wasn't able to do my classic sprint at the end to try and leap up into the podium. But it's, you know, risk reward. I kind of try and get a hold of the race organizers and see what they think, and I'll make my decision if I should run barefoot or not. If my biggest thing that would keep me from running barefoot is stickers, rocks, sticks, water, all that, no problem. Stickers in the foot, that's going to slow me down.
Yeah, that would have been there. We did the Hannibal race in Lebanon, and that one I had like thorns all through my feet after that one. And then the one in Texas, the US OCR Championships, the one year they did it in 2017, I was pulling out like thorns from my feet for, weeks after that one. So yeah, that would have
I would have bet. that would have been a easy shoe race.
Yeah. So, you've highlighted that there's some benefits, right? Because you have less physical weight on your foot. So that's less rotating weight, which means you can physically move your legs faster and requires less energy. And some of the negatives, so obviously stepping on sharp things or, a foot injury, why do you run barefoot?
It's just where I feel faster and natural. And I know I've been watching some speed channels, and a lot of runners think that you need these marathon shoes with lots of cushion, but a lot of speed coaches say the more cushion you have between your foot and the ground, the less natural your run is. And, we all think we need that to protect our knees and, our joints and ligaments, but our bodies were meant to run without a shoe. So, like, my balance is awful. If you were to run and bump into me at full speed, I'd probably go tumbling. So Gauntlet's notorious for having a lot of balance obstacles. And with the shoe, slack line, them kind of things, I'm not as good at. Even that 2x4 across the water, barefoot, I can go right across it. And I really don't have a lot of feeling on the bottom anymore. I think I've developed enough callus over the years. Even the Oklahoma race where you're running on the rocks, the gravel at the end there, really didn't give me too much issues.
Gotcha.
You
You're
don't
also
have
the
to worry
first.
about
Go for it.
you don't have to worry about your shoelaces, your feet getting sticks in your shoes, having all that water weight. I don't feel natural. I don't feel good. You feel good, you race good.
That's true. That is true. I was going to say you were also the first person to run OCR World Championships barefoot. And we had another guy, actually a guy from Strength and Speed, Thomas Knight, who ended up running barefoot. I guess he was the second person to run barefoot. So what was that
when
like?
I saw him, I was excited at the beginning because I was like,
did I say Thomas? Did I say Matthew Knight or Thomas Knight?
Matthew Knight, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I said Matthew Knight.
So I was excited at first because I was running with the pros. I knew I wasn't going to podium. And the course looked fairly good for running barefoot. And I was like, in London, I tried to do it, but I did the whole ask permission first. And the gal, what's her name, Rachel?
Yeah, Rachel Ann.
Yes. She said no. Even though it's not in the rule book, I checked, I read it all. It's not in the rule book, but she said I will be in trouble if I did it there. So London, I was wanting to do it, couldn't do it. I did it on the short or the 100 meter though in London, which was fun, but I slid a lot. So this time around, instead of asking for permission, I was going to ask for forgiveness. It's not in the rule book. They can't do anything if I didn't ask. So I took them off, getting warmed up. I saw Matthew and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Someone else is going to take this title of beat me to it, because I thought it'd be cool to be the first one to run one of these races barefoot. And he starts lining up, and all I had on my mind was I got to beat him. That way I can take I don't even care about the race. I got to beat him and take this title. So he doesn't know, but I was racing against him the whole time and nobody else.
That's really funny.
And he started, he's a heck of a runner. He started creeping up on me, and I thought, there ain't no way this guy has got the same feet like he's got every bit of the same, if not more.
Nice. Good stuff.
And then he did it on the 15K.
Oh, wow. So did you just do the 3K, or you did the 15K and the 3K barefoot?
So I just did the 3K. I wanted to do the 15K, but I was doing the team race on Sunday with Josh and James, and I could already tell they were concerned with me doing the 3K barefoot because, one little mishap and I ruined their race. And
right.
As a team player, it's not right for me to take a risk that can hurt the team. So I did the 3K because I felt like it'd be safe. The 15K I wanted to, but I had to put the team first on that one. And so I took the safe route and ran it with shoes. Although the course definitely would have been doable barefoot, if not even better, because I fell all over the place coming down that mountain.
Yeah. And you and you're talking about Josh and James are the White brothers. Anyone who goes to the Midwest knows them. Bald head, super fast. How'd you guys end up doing? I know you competed in the open division of the team world championships, right?
Yeah. So they invited me about 6 months before the race, and first it sounded cool. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Then leading up to it, I was like, I really don't want to do 3 straight races, 3 straight days. That's going to be like my last full day, and I want to enjoy it. In London, we'd always fly out the day after the race, and so we planned this trip to specifically have a free day at the end. So I was kind of hoping actually that they were going to cancel and go, well, we're just going to do the 3 and the 15K. So I messaged them like a week before the race, because I didn't really hear from them. I was like, are we doing the team race? Yep. I was like, all right, I guess we're going to do this. So I think there was 60, 70 teams, and I was looking at the strategy beforehand, and, you had the strength, the grip, and the endurance. And I thought, obviously, I should do the strength. That's what I'm best at, or even the grip. But on the 15K, I'm not too good with the low rigs. I can get through them, but I'm slow. So I really thought about it, and endurance is actually my weakest point. But on the map, it looked like it was just going to be kind of a sprint up the mountain, 4 obstacles, and a sprint down. So roughly a 10, 15-minute portion. So I told them at first I was going to be the strength, and we're going to have like Josh on the endurance, but I saw I could probably give us the best chance if I actually did the endurance, because that 10 minutes of sprinting, I was pretty confident I could beat out anyone running with me. That's how I train, is CrossFit. So just high intensity, 10 to 30 minutes of as hard as I can. And I felt like that was going to mirror it perfectly. So I ran up the mountain, and I think I had about 50 feet on the next closest guy, which was Matthew Knight, the barefoot runner too. So we get to the 4 up top, and, being from Kansas, I've never ran down a hill or a mountain or trained anything like it. So that's completely new to me, technique. I'm running down. I actually fell again about halfway. Matthew caught up, and he passed me towards about, I don't know, a football, maybe 2 football fields away from Josh, who was going to take the next portion. So I beat out everyone but Matthew, and I was confident. I didn't even sleep the night before, because I knew if I could just come out in the lead in my portion, that them 2 could do their part and that we would win. They actually both podium. Well, no, I take that back. James podium. I think he actually took first in his age group. No, Josh took third. So Josh took third in his age group, and James took first in his age group on the 15K.
Yeah, they're both very fast.
45 years old, and they don't show it.
No, they don't. So, anything, their obstacle proficiency is sometimes hit or miss. So, whenever they're at a Midwest race, if the obstacles are easy, I'm a little worried. If the obstacles are a little more difficult, I can relax a little bit. But they're a lot of times they're ahead of me until we start hitting some of the more technical obstacles.
Yep, that's what I rely on when I see them. I was like, I hope we have something to slow them down.
Yeah. So. Cool. And then what did you guys end up finishing first in the open, correct?
Yes. Yeah. That was gut-wrenching, waiting for James to pop out of the woods so me and Josh and James could do the final portion. And we knew that second place, he was a pro. He had long hair. I don't know his name. Very vocal though, tall. And he was running his portion alongside with James. And I knew that they were fairly close. And he had a lot of speed. So Josh and I were nervous, waiting. We see James pop out. We're ready. I just got tunnel vision. I sprinted. Got to the village. I can't remember what that first like real technical obstacle. Urban Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get there before even Josh and James, and I'm sitting there, heart is pounding. I was like, and they're yelling at me, "You can't go till your team's here." And man, I like those kind of moments. Give me the ball when the game's on the line. I like the pressure. Just like in the gauntlets, coming up on Pegatron at the very end, 5th place, leapfrog 2 of the guys. I like being in that neck and neck, even though Brent, he had his first place gauntlet by 1 second. And he had a pretty sizable lead on me until we got to that Pegatron at the end. And then we were neck and neck all the way till the very last slide. I can't remember what that's called.
Yeah, torpedo.
Yeah, torpedo. Yeah. He got the inside lane with his bigger body and kind of took me on that one, but.
Nice. Cool. So let's back up in time a little bit because I think some people don't know much about you. So tell us a little bit about, kind of how you found OCR. Did you play high school sports? Do you play sports after high school, et cetera?
Yeah, so I played a little bit of football, soccer, actually paintball. That was kind of my odd sport.
Oh, nice.
We went to the World Cup for that too, back in 2010. Didn't fare too well, but in the Midwest, we were a pretty good team. Edge Army, so the Edge Paintball was our sponsor here in Wichita. And it was just too time-consuming, very expensive.
That's what I was going to say. It's expensive because, you're literally just shooting money down every time you squeeze the trigger.
Oh, yeah. And in order to win, you have to pretty much continuously shoot. It's like a chess game with guns.
Yeah, it's essentially, there are people laying down suppressive fire almost the entire time, right? So, like, you have people shooting nonstop.
Yeah, so they were capped at like 13 balls a second tournament play when I left, and each pod would hold, 150, 180 paintballs. I'd carry 5 pods on me, and I could blow them all in 2 minutes. Games were generally 2 to 5 minutes, just because it's such a quick pace. Once you can get that advantage, 1 or 2 guys out on the other side, you push hard, and, strategy game. It's fun. I loved it, but just if you want to win a tournament, a case of $65 for the high-end paint, you'll probably, as a team, a 5-man team, you could go through 20 cases. So if you don't win, your sponsors aren't going to support you, so you're eating that cost. So
wow.
And it took up your whole weekends.
Wow. And how many matches would you end up playing in a tournament?
Usually it'd start off round robin. So you would do, if say there's 12 teams, you would actually probably play about 6 of them teams. And then you get points based off of, there's a flag in the center, you get the flat, there's 100 max points. You get the flag in the center, you get 50 points. You hang that flag, it was like 25 or 30 points. And then each player you kill is 5 points. So there was also that strategy. You could come to the very last match and only need 50 points to win the whole thing. So you didn't have to necessarily win the match. And so you could run straight off and go grab that flag and go for a suicide run is what they called them. Because once you grabbed it, you won the whole thing.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Continue going. But yeah, usually in a tournament, you'd probably play 10 to 12 at total because they'd have finals. So you do the round robin, then the top teams go to finals, and then so you can dominate through the whole thing, which we have, and then go to finals and you skunk.
Gotcha. Most of my paintball knowledge is about 20 years old. But
they've come a long ways.
I can't even imagine. But, back when I played, it was like the Angel was the only electronic gun, and it was like $1,000. And I remember, I remember looking back at paintball a couple years later, and it was like, oh, everyone's got an electronic gun now. And I was like, what? What was your, what gun did you use? And then how much does the, at that level, how much did the average gun cost with all the accessories, right? Because there's like the hopper that feeds the bullets in, and there's, instead of CO2, you can use nitro, right? So it has a better shot. Give us a little more, some product details here.
So when I started, it was when paintball was growing the fastest. They had a gun called the Ion, and it was an affordable, electronic, reliable gun. It was only about $150 new.
Oh, explain what electronic means to people for like a paintball gun, because that might be confusing.
So it's got a computer basically in it. It's got eyes that detect the ball. Once it detects the ball, it'll allow the gun to fire. So it also is hooked up to a trigger that is, you could bump this gun against your leg and it'll fire. So triggers are long, so you could use 2 fingers to kind of wiggle back and forth between them, and you could easily get 15, 20 balls a second off a semi-auto. So these guns with the computer system, it would allow or try and prevent the gun from, it's called chopping. So as the ball is being fed through an electronic hopper that's also regulated by a computer system that would feed them into this gun. Once it detects a ball in the chamber, it would fire. If there's no ball in the chamber, it would not fire. So that way you break a ball in your gun, you're pretty screwed until you get that cleaned up. But yeah, everything in paintball became more technology. CO2 went to the nitrogen, which was more efficient, cleaner, wasn't cold. So obviously the cold would not be good for a computer system. And I bought my first gun, Bob Long Protege tournament gun, about $750. And that was in probably 2008. So that was a decent amount of money at $7 at minimum wage.
Yeah.
But if you win tournaments, generally you would win brand new guns. Depending on how big the tournament is, would depend how good the gun you would get. So we won our first tournament, and it was called the Invert Mini, which was also kind of a new technology where they don't have the hose line that you would commonly see from the tank up to the handle. It was all internal. So it actually looked like a real gun. Well, not a real gun, but better, more efficient, because it's all internal. So more slick, and it was probably a $400 gun at that time. And that became my permanent gun. I loved how light it's a mini. It's small. So that's very helpful in a game where even just a pinky sticking out can be shot, because some of them guys are dead eyes or marksmen. So I like to be as small and slim as possible in the tournaments, because you'd be amazed what those guys could hit across the field. So I use that at the end of my career. We won, I think, 3 or 4 tournaments, had a bunch of podiums, bunch of near misses. But in all, with gear, so your pants would run you $100, your jersey $75 to $150, your hopper would run you about $200, your tank, depending on how small, that'd be $150, $200. Your gun for most tournament players would be anywhere from the range of $500 to $2,000. To me, my $400 mini matched any of them $2,000 guns. You could get a barrel kit, so paintballs would swell or shrink based off of weather and humidity and even the brand of paintball. So they would have barrel kits that you could adjust the bore of the barrel. So that way you'd have more accuracy. Outside of that, I guess your face mask. Your good face mask would be about $100, And there's one of the common rule in paintball. It didn't matter how good you played; it mattered how good you looked. So you wanted the nicer stuff.
That's pretty funny. There's actually in real combat, it's not that much different.
Yeah.
There's a running joke that says, there are 3 rules in special forces. One is, let's see, let me get them in order. Correct. Don't get lost. Number 2 is always look cool. And number 3 is if you do get lost, make sure you look cool still.
Yep. That goes hand in hand with paintball.
That's go for it.
So back to the sports thing too, because that got kind of offhand. But back in high school, when I tried to play football, I was 130 pounds. Coach told me I was never going to be strong or fast enough to amount to this type of sport. So that kind of motivated me, pushed me. I got to college, and I think I ended up being pound for pound the strongest out of anyone I knew around me in my group. Weighed 140 pounds, could squat 400, could bench 285. So it's kind of funny because, Mufasa and Simba, when Simba goes, "What's that shadowy place?" And Mufasa, there's a meme that Mufasa says, "That's the cardio equipment. You must never go there." And that was my philosophy. I hated cardio. I hated running. I would jump out in front of a car if I was ever caught running in a street because kind of my ADHD, I just can't do the same thing over and over and over and enjoy it. So in college, I was just weightlifting, loved it. I got strong. And what brought me to OCR is when I moved back here to Wichita, I was working out with a friend of mine, Greg Shiner, who's also done some of the gauntlets. And I would laugh at him and joke with him because it's like, you're paying $70 to go run on a jungle gym. I was like, dude, if you want to come run on my property, I'll do it for $30 and you can climb all the things you want. So he finally convinced me to do it. And I was like, all right, I'll pay the money to go run your little mud run. And I'm just going to hate it. So trained for it for about a month, maybe 2 months on the running. And I couldn't do just running. So I got into CrossFit to help get my endurance up. And then my competitive nature, I wasn't just going to do it to have fun. I was going to do it to do the best I could. So the 2017 Gauntlet in Wichita, we line up in, I think the first wave, the 8 or 8:30 wave. It wasn't the elite wave. And it would have been the second open wave because there was people ahead of us. So I had the mindset I'm going to beat everyone I could and get the best time. And I'm especially going to beat my friends that are there. So finished the race, completed the whole thing. It was challenging. I liked it actually because it wasn't just running. There was challenges in between, and it wasn't running for 20, 30 minutes straight. You would pretty much run for 2 to 5 minutes before you get to an obstacle, sometimes back-to-back obstacles. So I took 15th at that one, and I know the total runners doesn't show how many were competitive, but there was like 1,400 runners at that race. And it's like, and the guy that won that race, he only finished in like 49 minutes, I think. Like it was actually kind of a late time.
Which year was that?
2017.
2017 Wichita? Was it you said?
Yeah.
Okay, that was the one I think that was the one I was in first and crossed the rig. And when I landed on the rig, I stepped on the line. Like I had 1 foot on the line and 1 foot behind the line. And I was like, did that count? And the volunteer was like, and I was like, I'll just do it again. So the rules say you just have to touch the line. You didn't have to like completely clear it. So I go
Mm-hmm.
back to do it and I can't get across. Like I've pumped my arms out. So I went from first and I finished like seventh, and Scott Wierzecki makes it across on the first try, and everyone else got stuck either at Pegatron or something else, and Scott won that one. So yeah, so that
Yeah.
was an interesting race.
Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, it wouldn't take much training for me to get up there with the elite pack, but little did I know the elite pack actually pushes more of a, 30 to 38-minute time versus the 49-minute time that year, because I was ready next year to win that one. And then I saw all you guys finishing in 35, 40 minutes. It's like, okay, this ain't going to be as easy as I thought. But I fell in love with it. I thought I had kind of a knack for it, even though endurance is still my weakest point. I'm trying to do all the education and reading I can on improving that without having to go run 30 miles, 40 miles a week like some guys can. I probably only get about 10 miles. No, I'll probably get 15 miles a week.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since then, it's taken off. It's given me motivation in the gym again, because I was losing that, not having anything to train for. I was going to college I was going to play soccer at Fort Hays. Ended up having to need knee surgery. And then I separated my AC, a grade 3, which is a complete separation, all within 6 months of each other. So kind of ended my athletics there. So I focused on school and enjoying college, and I needed something to give me the push to, continue working on myself and staying in the gym, and OCR's done that.
Yeah. Good stuff. Now I want to jump back to paintball real quick before we transition back to OCR. So one, you listed all those costs. So anyone who complains about OCR costs, you should check out paintball, and then you'll feel better about yourself, or triathlon. Those two sports are obscenely expensive. Two, and one of the things we like to ask people is, tell us something you've learned from a previous sport that you think you can apply to obstacle course racing. So is there anything you learned from playing paintball that you think applies to OCR, whether it be physical training or just mental kind of lessons learned? Or something about the business on the backside of paintball, something like that.
Actually, yeah. So strategy's actually lost me more races than not in OCR. Same thing with paintball. It's 100% a chess game. People think you're just going out there, which I got to be specific. I played the speedball. So it's the bunkers that are blown up. It's a mirror course, so both sides are exact. And it's not, in the woods, just shooting at each other, which there are woods ball tournaments, but that's more of a strategy of patience and, a bigger chess game. The speedball is a lot quicker pace, faster. You can pretty much see everything in front of you of what's going on. So, yeah, you can't just go into every game playing the same way. Same thing with OCR. You can't just go sprinting off the beginning. You really need to look at the course and know what's coming and know when to use more of your strength, how to play, when to make your final push at the end. Because just one mistake in either one of those will cause you a race or cause you a championship in paintball. I take it to like the race against Brent and Conquer the Gauntlet. I used the female lane on the Tarzan swing. That cost me about 45 seconds. I had to go back, kind of get my strength back, and then go back through. So a race that you lost by 1 second, 45 seconds is a big deal. And then also the endurance race with Battle of the Lions. Did not have and the night before I had a couple beers with, it was a work party, and shouldn't have done it because didn't think of the strategy portion of it's going to be hot. It's going to be 15 miles. the day before that, I ran 10 miles, felt great, had a good pace, could easily have gone 10 more. So same thing, Battle of Lions, went through the first lap, feeling great. In that second lap on the obstacles, the pressure of the weave that they got on my calf, the race was over. At that point, I just started cramping throughout both legs, went to my arms, my stomach, everything was cramping. And nutrition, you got to be hydrated. You got to have your nutrition. You can't have those beers the night before.
Yeah, that was a really hot day too.
Yeah, it showed you guys that were prepared. Obviously, you were prepared and passed me on that second lap. And, you guys knew what was coming. And even though if it would have been perfect conditions where I was ready, I felt like I was going to do great because I had no issues endurance-wise and strength-wise that race. Just
that
body beat me.
That one, the Battle Lions Endurance and the CTG this year were both nutrition games, just because the weather was hot and the sun was like really beating down on both of those races, and there was very little shade, right? So it really took a toll on you. Both those races, I was kind of I wasn't feeling good for almost the entire race, and it's just that everyone else felt worse, except two people in Battle of the Lions. But yeah, it's that was definitely, both of those were nutrition games. So
not to mention that mile-long bucket carry that I did twice.
That was funny.
So if you saw a random bucket at the bridge that we originally were going to the first lap, right before you made that final turn with the bucket to go drop it off, there's a bucket out there. Yeah, that was my bucket because apparently I didn't get the memo that everyone else did, and I ran the second lap with the bucket. And then luckily there were some good sports behind me. Matt, he's on that pro OCR team.
Matt Campione, Grit Fitness.
He was yelling at me about a football, which I was pretty upset because I had a decent lead on all of them on that second lap at the beginning, and I felt great because I think I was in like fourth place, and I was just playing my cards. I had the strategy, third lap, I'm going to pass them, and that bucket just wore me out and told me drop the bucket, and I dropped it and tried to make up for my time that I lost because, I lost about 4 minutes. I was right behind Brent at the beginning of that second lap, and I could see him getting kind of fatigued. And even Ban, he wasn't too far ahead of me. And strategy.
If anyone's confused what we're talking about, so the Battle of the Lions, it was in like a park kind of area in Kansas City for that event. Oklahoma City, sorry. And there was people that were like pulling up some of the course markings. So I can't remember exactly what the problem was. I don't know if they pulled up part of the course markings or if Brent, who was leading the race at the time, just wasn't paying attention. But he basically took all the
That's
males.
More likely.
I think it's the latter. He basically took all the males on what was supposed to be like a 100-meter, not even, bucket carry, and we literally did a mile. I think it was 0.75 is what we clocked it out at. Like a 0.75 mile long bucket carry. And the women had to do the same thing because they saw what the men were doing and kind of followed. So it was, it was funny. I thought it was funny in hindsight, but actually during it, I was like, this is just a really long bucket carry. I guess Dave and Sid are not messing around today. So good stuff. I just thought of one more quick paintball related question. So, we talked about some of the costs and you mentioned some of the sponsors. What, how do those sponsors reduce costs? Like, do they buy space on jersey? Did you name the team after them? Like, what did you do to promote those sponsors? I think you said it was like around 2008. So, were you guys promoting them on social media? Like, what was the method there?
So social media wasn't too big back then there's Facebook and like MySpace, but Basically, we represented the Edge, so it's the biggest paintball field in the Wichita area, and arguably kind of in the Midwest area. Not Kansas and Hull, but all the way up to Salina. So for tournaments, there was some reimbursement there for placings. There were some tournaments where he would pay completely because entry fee usually was about $120 a person at minimal. Some of the national tournaments could be even more. It could be $1,000 for a team of 5 to 7 players. Paintballs, again, your low end paint at a tournament was 45, 50, your high end 60, 65. So you usually wanted to shoot the better stuff. The biggest help sponsors gave was the practicing the field. So we didn't have to pay any entry fee at the local paintball field. We could play woods ball with the rec, or the walk-ons is what it was called, even though we were handicapped pretty largely because with our play and our style and our equipment, a couple of us could go slaughter 20 walk-ons easy. I mean, you could have 3 of us tournament players and a bunch of guys and girls that are just out there to have fun and do a weekend warrior kind of thing wouldn't stand a chance. So we would have practice every Sunday. Our obligation kind of was to set up the speedball field Sunday mornings and then take them down. Our paint was at his cost, so we would pay $15-20 for 2,000 paintballs. So each practice would usually cost us about $20. You'd go through a case in a practice. We'd get free air, obviously. So Maddie, who owned the Edge, one of his best friends was Bob Long, who made one of the higher end tournament paintball guns. So
that's a pretty big deal because I know that name.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, that was part of the success of the Edge and the Edge Army was Bob Long. Maddie always got cheaper gear, cheaper guns. He actually had one of the guns before it was even on the market. And one year at World Cup, all the gear was lost or stolen. And Bob Long gave all the players a new gun, told them go pick one off the trailer. And so it's not quite the best sponsor like compared to other sporting events where they absorb a lot of the costs. If you had a lot of success, those sponsors were more likely to cover your tournaments too. But being successful in that game consistently was very difficult because it was based on money.
Yeah. So
Texas Storm was one of the better Midwest teams, if not the best. They actually turned pro. Their sponsor would have them shoot 20 to 30 cases in a tournament. And any team that wasn't sponsored, which the majority weren't, they might have a similar sponsor like we had where they could practice for cheap, not necessarily free, but Texas Storm could shoot all the paint they want and they didn't have to pay a dime. So you couldn't really keep up with that because no one could afford to beat them. They would just lay so much paint down that, it's hard to beat a team that you can't poke your head out without having all the paintballs flying at you.
Yeah, so some of the earlier things you said, I see a lot of similarities between OCR, right? Like there's an initial investment to get in there, and then you have to be at a certain level to start getting some perks back. And then it's one of those things where, it's a lot easier if you get sponsors that can provide stuff to you that doesn't cost them anything, right? Like it doesn't physically cost the paintball field anything to let you onto their field for free, right? Like it doesn't cost, like if CTG gives me a free entry to their race, like it doesn't cost them anything to give that free entry, right? Because they're holding that race regardless. So getting in with the right people, and then obviously having the results to back that up ahead of time, and then kind of leveraging that success forward is the way to go.
Yeah. And it usually benefited them in a way like ours, where we'd help out with the field and kind of keep our sponsorship. And so he got a little bit of labor out of it. He got advertising out of it. So, I mean, for a field owner, you'd almost be stupid not to try and sponsor a team to kind of get promotion out there. Because like you said, they don't have to really pay anything to do it. And if they are successful in these local and regional tournaments, they'll bring awareness to their field, because just like OCR, you can't just do an OCR in every city. Most people have to travel to go play paintball. You know, there's one in Wichita, Belle Plaine has one, Salina, but these aren't everywhere you go. And it actually grew quite a bit since I played. It's gone up and down, but a lot of people would travel a couple hours for this day-long event, not even just tournaments, just recreation.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we used to drive a couple hours. Growing up, I lived on Long Island, and there was like one or two indoor paintball fields at the time. And then if we wanted to play outdoors, though, we would drive up to like Pennsylvania, and there was this place called Skirmish that we used to go to.
So yeah, that's another similarity, is if you want to play, or whether it's OCR or paintball, you're going to have to travel. I mean, and spend a lot of money. Well, yeah. I guess OCR is not too bad. You could essentially practice or train anywhere you want to. A park, your basement, a field, a side of a highway.
Speaking of training anywhere you want, I understand you have a pretty good backyard setup. So tell us a little bit about that. And then if you could share some tips for anyone else that's looking to kind of, build their own training area.
Yeah. So after that first race, I noticed that pretty much every obstacle was just made out of wood or just everyday items. It wasn't anything that was fancy or complicated. So I got on Facebook Market trying to find all the scrap materials I could, recyclables, anything, wood. Pretty much if you had wood, you could make anything you wanted, obstacle-wise. So we have about 9 acres out here in Leon, which is about 20 minutes east of Wichita. And I have a quarter-mile loop just in our front yard area that's, as long as you don't cut corners, it's exactly a quarter mile. So I draw up 16 obstacles that I'm going to do, and I put them on this piece of paper. And my central, so I don't have like obstacles scattered on my property. I have them in a central location, and it's at my workshop / barn, mainly so I can keep things like the Tarzan swing, gibbons, which for those that don't know, the floating monkey bars. So monkey bars, but you're lifting your bar to the next portion of the obstacle. I keep those in the shop so weather doesn't, cause them to wear out. So I'll run a lap at a decent pace, enough to get me out of breath, and then I will do an obstacle. So I have a rope that goes up my 2-story shop, and then I'll do another lap, and then I'll do Pegatron. So I got a pegboard that is outside, but it's out behind my barn, and then I'll do another lap, and then Tarzan swing, and then so on and so forth. So I'm able to kind of mix and match and change what kind of obstacles I do and what order I do. Sometimes I'll just do grip intensive, where every obstacle is just grip. So I'll do 4 miles with 16 grip obstacles. When the gauntlet's coming up, I have Z-board and slackline. So I'll incorporate those. I also like to kind of mix it up, because it's hard to push yourself to the point like a racing push. You're fatigued and tired the whole OCR race because you're competing. when you're training, you can't really do that every day, or you're just going to wear yourself out and injure yourself or get burned out. So I like to do sprints. So I got about a 100-yard sprint length that I'll sprint, come back to the barn, kind of catch my breath for a second, and then do an obstacle. And then I'll let myself recover enough where I can go all out, sprint again, come back to the barn, do the next obstacle, just to kind of mimic that out of breath feeling that you would have in a race and doing an obstacle. So it has been a huge advantage for me because, like, I never even seen Gibbons except on video at the North American Championship. And here we are getting ready to go to London. So I made it out of wood, just 2x4s. And the bars were just closet hanger, the rack, cut them to size. So almost everything I have is just recycled goods. Like you don't have to necessarily buy the fancy stuff. If you get creative, you can find it. Go to a junkyard, you could probably find everything you wanted, from the rope, different grips, like I got playground equipment that people were just giving away for free on Marketplace, handles, bowling pins, a baseball. So drill a hole through that, put an eye bolt, mimics that little ball grenade thing that they have at the gauntlet. So
Good stuff. All right. What, one more question about your barefoot running. So if someone's listening to this and is like, I'm more interested in the, the minimalist, the barefoot running trend, do you have any advice for them if they were interested in making that transition, whether it be for, just some additional training or for actually running OCR barefoot?
So they would definitely want to make sure they got callus on their feet. So it's one of those things you got to kind of maintain. So if it's not a lifestyle, you're going to struggle. So out here on our farm in the summer and spring and fall, I'm pretty much doing chores, even chopping wood and mowing, everything barefoot. Luckily, we have no stickers. We have a gravel driveway, which doesn't give me any issues, but I do everything outside of work and, going into public barefoot. So you have to maintain it. And if you can get yourself there where you do have the callus, I think you would feel a lot better, more comfortable, and more natural running these races. People would be surprised how little it does affect you. And I am very thankful because I got hooked up with MudGear. They had some recovery socks at Worlds, and he threw me a pair. Actually, I think he threw me a pair at the Battle of the Lions, and I used them for Worlds along with my UFOs after the 3K race. And normally I'll have a pretty good soreness in my feet the next day. I had nothing after that. I wore my UFOs. I wore my MudGear socks for that evening. My body was just shot after the 3K race because it's a sprint. My feet were the best thing I had on come Saturday and Sunday for the races. So recovery, very important. I was given the tip, never go cheap on your shoes, never go cheap on your bed. That's where you spend most of your life. So don't ever train in something that, you get at Walmart, them $15, $20, wannabe shoes or, wannabe running shoes are going to cause you more problems than anything. So.
Gotcha. All right. Now what, we're going to start wrapping things up here. What do you have planned for 2022? What events are you going to do at?
Definitely going to be doing all the Battle of the Lions. I will be going back to Worlds this year up in Stratton Mountain, Vermont. We were really hoping it was going to be overseas. we loved the London experience. I'd like to do one Spartan, even though I think that'll be more of a weakness of mine because it's less obstacles. The obstacles have stayed the same for years. They're really not difficult to any of the experienced runners. Actually, I see a lot of them have more fun than anything on the obstacles and actually try, except the spear throw. That's kind of the 8-ball in there. I'm going to do a couple of local events. That way friends and family can watch. The Gladiator, the Siege. I'm also going to get into high rocks. I think that's going to gear more towards my strengths because that's exactly how I train is run, weightlift, just back to back to back for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, which high rocks usually to be competitive, you got to finish in about an hour, which in my home gym, I've been able to mimic every event they have. And I finish usually about an hour and 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and that's non-race mode. I might look at DecaFit, but I don't see those as quite often as I do the high rocks. And Rugged Maniac. Rugged Maniac is a really fun one. Their obstacles are more like engineered and like actually built, look like they come out of a factory. And I think I do very well in that kind of event. Kansas City threw me off the first time running straight up the artificial ski mountain.
Yeah.
But I'm going to definitely be doing more endurance work. My strength is there. It's just, and strategy. This year I'm going to go in with a lot more strategy to races because, again, it's killed me more often than not just by simple mistakes. This last gauntlet one, running behind Jay Flores, Macy was telling me as we're getting towards the end of the race, he's right there, you can pass him. And I was like, I know, I'm just pacing myself because I have all the energy right now to sprint out a quarter mile. And we get to that stairway and I was not ready for the slickness. He fell off. I got excited instead of just taking a second to kind of look at freshly painted board, a little wet, probably going to slide a little. So I should have, instead of doing the quick hand way, I should have just went in there and kind of chicken winged it, used more of my forearms, and I slid off too. Then I got into panic mode. I tried again and again and fell 3 times and just could never recover. So
yeah, that was terrible. That one got easier on the multiple laps. Like the first lap was awful.
Yeah, because you weren't expecting it. Like we were expecting kind of more of the worn out Stairway to Heaven or even Worlds. Like they put in London, they had like some kind of grip.
Yeah, they put
like
a little grip tape there.
So it's terrible idea to paint those. I don't know what they're thinking. I know they're trying to protect the wood, but at least like sprinkle down some sawdust or something to put over that paint or under that paint so you can have a little more traction because the obstacle itself, not very difficult. I mean, it's a pull-up, and then a transition.
And there was morning dew on there too, and then on top of that, it was right after a lake crossing. So you had muddy, wet hands, morning dew. Once the sun came out a little bit later in the day, it actually dried out a little, and it actually got easier every lap for continuing. Yeah. But that first one was, I mean, I was like on my way down, and I was like, I'm definitely gonna fall. This is going poorly, and I had to chicken wing and like hook my arms deep in there to prevent me from sliding off on the way down.
Yep, pretty much all of us there at the front. I mean, I don't know what Ashton did because he's so far ahead that, I mean, he's probably already celebrating at that point. But Jay fell, I fell, the 2 guys that were behind us fell, which, I mean, it's unfortunate because it's just, again, one of those races that one mistake cost me potential 2nd or 3rd place because had all the energy to make my pass, and I could see Jay kind of breathing hard there. I'm doing more of that, trying to read people. I know they say it's an individual sport. All you're fighting against or competing against is yourself. But if you want to be on the podium, you really need to try and read who you're running against and what their strengths are. Because if you try and push too soon, I know Jay is someone, and a lot of those guys, Ashton, you, Brent, you push too soon, they'll push right back. And you have a little more of an advantage sitting behind them, because I've been in that situation where you feel like you're running up on the last obstacle and you feel like you got it, but that guy behind you made that push, and by the time you realized it, he's already got the momentum and passes you.
Yeah.
So
good stuff. All right, we're going to start wrapping things up. Before we get going, we like to ask people, tell us one thing people would be surprised to know about you. So what do you got?
So I had to think about this one a little bit. I think it would be that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even when I was looking in the future, the farm life, the country life, I would have said, hell no, not for me. I like the city life. I like having neighbors. I like socializing. When my wife had the horses and I realized I'm going to have to get land, I thought, this is awful. I don't want this. That's going to be too much work, too much things to deal with. Now I love it. So this wasn't the life I would have chose, not even close, but having all the space to do anything, have all the tools you want, have the space for your own gym, have the space for your own obstacles, store essentially any tool that I would need, has completely changed me. But I mean, I'm a city boy, 100%. Other than, I like the hunting, the guns. I was into that all growing up, the lake, the fishing, but.
Yeah. Oh, similar story. I grew up in Long Island, New York, and obviously suburbs there. And I didn't think I'd like the middle of the country, and I love it. There's no traffic. I don't have to pay tolls every time I drive anywhere. If something's 60 miles away, I'll be there in an hour or less. Versus Long Island, it's like, 5 miles away. Yeah, I'll be there in 25, 30 minutes. And that's if the traffic's light today. So very little interest in moving back to the East Coast, where, the houses are a lot more expensive, and literally like everything's more expensive. So I like the middle of the country. Yeah. I think it's nice.
It's cheap. It's quick to get around. Yeah. I mean, so you would understand my struggle when a couple of my friends are like, I want to train, or I want to come out to your place. And like, but it's just so far. It's like, it's 35, 40 minutes. Like, you live in any big city, that's a minimal for anywhere you go. Like,
right. And it's a straight, like I just looked at you up at like how far away the city you live in is from me. It's about 2 hours. But I know if I get in my car, I will be there in exactly 2 hours. It's not going to be like, oh, well, it might hit traffic and it might be 3 hours, or it might be, 3.5. Like, it'll be a very easy drive. It'll be relaxing. I'll put on an audiobook and I can just cruise there. So,
which I've been doing a lot of that. I drive a lot more now for work and going to Wichita and doing the home health. And it's, I use that time now to feed the brain. So anyone out there that, if you do a lot of driving, turn off the music sometimes and just get some history, get some knowledge, get some education. You might be surprised about or how much you enjoy it, because there are a lot of interesting things out there, and knowledge is power.
I would highly encourage people to get Audible. One, if you do get it, go to Strength and Speed website, and there's an Audible thing on there. Please click through that, because I get a small kickback. It's like $1. It's not much, but it's something. But two, because the amount of books you can read in a year through Audible is insane, right? So like I'm listening to books basically every time I drive to and from work. So you can consume a lot more information, and it's, it builds, and it's valuable. And then I actually also, Kindle Unlimited was having a sale around Christmas. So it was like $30 for 6 months, which is very cheap. And so I signed up for that too. So I've been binge reading books over the last couple of weeks. So if anyone wants to check out Kindle Unlimited, I would check out that too, because you can read all my books essentially for free. So whatever the rate you sign up for Kindle Unlimited is, you can go there and then you can basically download all these books for free. So that's what I've been doing. I've been not reading my own books, but reading other people's books. And, whatever topic you're interested, there'll be some sort of free books available for it. And normally I don't do that just because I'm a little bit more picky about what books I was reading, but kind of diving into some other topics where I didn't really care who wrote the book necessarily. So I started checking that out.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And
go for it.
And that's what's nice is whatever you're interested in, whether it's sport, whether it's, religion, history, even someone that wants to be a certain profession of maybe a contractor or get into woodworking, there's books out there. You could gain so much knowledge just by your drive, just by your downtime where all you need to do is put on some headphones or turn on some speakers.
Yeah. All right. Before we get going, any final shout outs you want to give? Friends, family, sponsors, etc.?
Footprints ICT for sure. That's the charity that I run for. They're based out of Wichita. They put socks, new socks preferably, but they will take very lightly used, like new socks. They provide socks for the homeless and children in need. So I'm not sure how many, but they have socks in elementary schools throughout the state where kids can just go up and get a new pair of socks, no questions asked. They also are very involved with feeding the homeless and the shower van that comes through and gives them a fresh shower. And it's pretty simple. They'll take any socks, $1 a pair from Walmart. Definitely want to give a shout out to MudGear. That I didn't know what a difference that wearing socks would make. I never even thought about it. And UFOs, which I got from your advertising. I saw the UFOs. Obviously, if you wear them, saw a couple other guys wear them. They have to work. I put them on. Now my mom's got them. My mother-in-law's got them. My wife's got them. And then is it Aurora?
Aurora, yeah, like heated apparel.
Yes. Just got that yesterday. Put it on. We were going out for date night, and I had to do a couple things outside. I turned on the preheat, and even that was already pretty warm. I put it up to a high setting. It almost felt like you're getting a massage on your back because that warmth just going down your spine. So definitely want to give them a shout out. Their jackets are amazing. And then obviously the final one, Battle of the Lines. If you are thinking of doing an OCR, whether you are on the couch the day before or you train for 2 years, you can do it. Everyone can do it. I promise you, you will have fun. You'll be able to do the majority of the obstacles. And even if you can't, it's no judgment. There are 1,000 runners. Maybe 200 or 300 of them actually complete the whole obstacle course. So you are the majority if you don't complete it. People just walk by. This isn't something that you have to be ready, be prepared for. Just go out, get muddy, get wet, have fun, push yourself, and then you'll find out what you can challenge yourself for the next event or the next year. So they have 4 different types, and they geared towards basically anyone in their competitive nature, strength, endurance, grip, and a mixture.
So you mentioned that most of the people fail something. So when I was working for Tough Mudder at Infinite Hero Challenge, I had, one of the meeting points was it was called skid mark. It's an inverted wall, basically. So simple inverted wall, nothing tricky about it. And the failure rate there was probably 33% in the open waves, right? Like, it's just an inverted wall. There's nothing, it's like 8 feet tall. It's slanted towards you. It's got some footholds and some handholds. And the number of people who walk up to it and were like, nope, can't do that, and just walked around, I was like, So, I think sometimes we get into these small circles where it's, you start hanging out with the competitive OCR people, and you lose touch with the reality on like what the average person coming to an event can actually do. And, like you said, the overwhelming majority are not doing all the obstacles, like not even close.
Yeah, you can't look at, our pictures and videos and get intimidated, because that is not the majority. That's not, I've seen people there that weigh 350 pounds. I've seen people there that are 3 foot tall and 6.5 foot tall. And not one of them, every one of them were having fun. They had a smile on their face. Some of the obstacles they couldn't do, no problem. Walk on past. There's 10 people walking with you at the same time. Or try it and fall. You'll have a good laugh. They're safe. I'm trying to push more friends and family. They all say, oh, I can't do it. It's like, yes, you can. And I forgot the last shout out to my wife, Macy. I'm sure you've seen her. She's made every event, no matter what, rain, shine, cold. Even the Yeti, when it was almost freezing rain, she was there. Her mom, Mindy Owens, my mother-in-law, she makes almost every single one of them. Them two have made, she, I think, only missed maybe one Worlds. She missed two in London, but she went this year. But the amount of time, the hours they put in just to watch a 30-minute to an hour race and then drive 3 hours back, 4 hours. I'm thankful for that, because I know some of you guys, seasoned runners, you've done it so much that you're in your families. It's just not easy to do, to bring your whole family every time. So I am thankful for that. And of course, my mom, she's been my number one supporter growing up in sports and competition. And them 3 ladies, I would not be here.
Gotcha. Well, appreciate you coming on. I got a bunch of quick, if anyone's looking for more information, I've got articles all over the place. So MudGear, check out the MudGear blog. There's a World's Toughest Mudder comparison article comparing this year to previous years. There's a first-timer's guide to World's Toughest Mudder. That's a good article to read now, again, a couple of months before, and then again right before, because it's got tips for kind of throughout the entire year that you're going to want to be reminded about. There's another article called Winter OCRs to Get You Moving. So it is highlighting some of the events that are going on in January, including Casey Timber Challenge coming up at the end of the month, and Abominable Snow Race up in Wisconsin. Abominable Snow Race, Dave and Sydney, the Battle of the Lions owner, is going to be working on the build crew up there. And Casey Timber Challenge, our local course, always a fun time there that both me and Thomas plan on going to. There's also on MudGear 24 Hours in the Desert. So it's a 40-minute documentary about World's Toughest Mudder. Not like a very detailed documentary, but it's if you've been there, it's really cool to show your family because they show each obstacle individually. It was shot by John Coley of MudGear. I'm in it a couple times, so you can check that out. I've got 2 articles over on the OCR report. Now, one of them is what 24 hours of obstacle course racing does to you physically, and another one, what does 24 hours of obstacle course racing do to you mentally? So those are 2 of my favorite articles I've written in the last couple months, because it kind of just a detailed breakdown. It allowed me to take a lot of the experience I've had from the 15 or so plus 24-hour OCRs I've done over the last couple of years to kind of detail that out. I've also got articles on OCR Buddy. We mentioned Rugged Maniac earlier, an article on do inflatable obstacles belong in OCR, so I share some thoughts on that, and a couple of reviews, some product reviews over at OCR Buddy, including Play Out the Card Game. And then let's see what else. If you're looking to join Strength and Speed, the development team application window is open for another week. So head over to Strength and Speed, look at the blog section of our website, and apply. Real quick application. And you can come hang out with the cool kids and join our private Facebook group and get access to knowledge and some free swag and some free kit there. And then finally, I'm give a quick shout out to Jay Mazza. He was one of the guys working at Mudderhorn during World's Toughest Mudder that was boosting people up. He commented me. He asked me a couple days ago asking about I guess there's like a running group that's doing a book club. So asking if he could use one of my books. And I said, absolutely. So if anyone is in a book club and wants to use my books, just shoot me a message and we can get you a deal. I can send over like essentially a stack at a lower cost than you'd be able to buy online, either from my website or from Amazon, and save you guys some money. All right. I think that's about it. Blegmans are back in stock, all sizes, small, medium, large, and extreme and light. And then what else? My new book, going through editing right now and getting some confirmation. Details or some very light details are up on the Strength and Speed website. You can go check that out in the book section. The book's called On Endurance, and I will share some more details with you as it gets closer to publication. But you can, if you want to go check out the website and look a little bit more about it, you can. And then finally, if you're looking for more information on Thomas, obviously he is now on the Battle of the Line, MudGear-Battle Line's Pro Team website. So if you go to botlproteam.com, you can check out the athletes on that link and has some more details about him. And then you'll be seeing some, any other links we have that relate to him up on that website over the next couple of months. Thomas, thanks again for coming on. I will see you at the end of the month. And we'll catch you later.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and I look forward to it, man.